Welcome to EPI's Launch Your Classroom. I'm Kyle Pope, a former high school social studies teacher.
I'm Kristina, a former elementary school teacher.
In this session, we're going to be talking about school leadership and structure. We're going to discuss understanding key roles of personnel. We're going to talk about communicating with parents and principals, and we're going to provide you with a couple of examples of professional correspondence.
Absolutely.
Kristina, could you tell us a little bit about leadership structure?
Yeah, of course. So thinking about key parts of that leadership structure, if you'll notice, students and parents are at the top of the structure. That is because they are the main people that the service of public education is essentially providing to. So you will want to make sure that you are making communication with those people very early on and very positive. Now, students are in your class, right? You'll have the ability to interact with them on a daily basis and should be establishing those connections. We will be talking about that in further sessions of our courses, but for right now, I want to really hone in on talking about those parents. Making positive connections with parents is so important for your class and for your atmosphere, and making sure that you're establishing those partnerships with them. A really good way to establish that connection early on, making it positive, is giving out a parent letter. Now, parent letters are a letter you are able to write at one time, and then you can personalize it for all of the students in your class to make sure that you're using your students' names, that it's personal to them, and making that connection clear. You'll want to use the parent letter to show who you are as an educator, how your class will run, and really also give the opportunity to get a sense of who they are as well. So you want to make sure that your letter is professional, it's informative, and it's also encouraging, right? You want the parent to be able to feel comforted and feel happy and safe that their student is in your class. You want them to be excited that you're their teacher this year.
Absolutely. So if you look at the screen, what we have created here is a parent letter that you can send out on your first few days of school. You'll see there's a highlighted portion where you can change and personalize this however you need it. You can also see in the top, like Kristina was talking about, where you can change the child's name to make it personal. So I know ideally we would like to call all these parents in our first week and actually make that voice contact with them. But the first week of school is incredibly hectic.
A lot going on.
Absolutely. So we find that sending home a parent letter is the best way. You want to send this out in the first couple of days. You can send it home with the student. As you can see on the letter, we keep a positive tone. We keep everything enthusiastic. We pepper a few exclamation points in there, right? We're telling them, the parents, that the child's going to learn, right? We're excited about their learning. We're also, focusing on you being an international teacher. Some parents are going to be really excited about this element and this opportunity, but they also need to know that you may do things a little different than what they're used to, than what an American teacher would do. But that's perfectly fine. We're just opening those lines of communication. You're giving them those information. We're also going to let them know that you may have an accent, that communication might be an issue. Communication is extremely important. But just because, the child might not understand every word you're saying, we're not going to let it be a barrier, right? We're going to have a way around it. You're going to be patient. You're going to write it out if needed to be. But we're just assuring the parents of these things. We're making them feel comfortable with you. And as you can see on the second page there, we're allowing the parent time to talk about their child, to tell you anything that they want to. This will be key in building rapport with the parent and the child to find out a little bit about what's going on. Kristina, you've used a similar format to this in the past, right?
I have. So when I was a teacher, I would have my parent letter. It would tell who I am, how my class would run, a little bit about those types of things. And then I would staple a blank sheet of paper, copy paper to the back. So where it doesn't have lines, there's no pressure for how big or small to write or how much to write. And on the paper, all it says is, in as little or as as many words as you want, please tell me about your child. All the things that you would want me to know in order for them to have a successful year in my class. And they would tell me all kinds of things. Most of the time, it would be really great bragging things that I could then find out about them, and interests, hobbies, and things they like to do. But I also found out really important family dynamics. And one time, I'll just give you an example of that. So I was in one of my classes, I had a student that brought in that letter back, and it was from her mom. And her mom wrote to me and told me that she is a single parent and that she has 2 jobs. And that typical standard, parent-teacher conferences and phone call communication is really tough for her. But that if I would just email her and I would just make this subject, very clear that it's about her daughter, and that, she's able to then get in contact with me and we can respond communicate via email. I would not have known that, and, potentially would not have known that had I not given that letter. So it was really critical information that I ended up using the email quite a bit. So we really spoke back and forth, and that was a very successful thing for, me to know and her to tell me. And that was a good avenue for me to give that information in.
Absolutely. It allows you to establish that partnership.
Absolutely.
For the child's education. And even if you might have tried a phone number that was on file or something like that, you may not have got a hold of her, but now from sending this letter,
Exactly.
you understand how she likes to communicate, and we're able to establish that relationship.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So what we're going to talk about next is some personnel. We're going to talk about the HR or human resources personnel that you may encounter. Most of the time, you'll get this through email communication. They're district level personnel, so they usually work in a district office, so they're not usually in your school.
They're busy.
Right, absolutely. So when they email you, it's usually going to be about policy. It could be about regulation changes, things that should impact you, maybe how you teach. It could be maybe dress code stuff that they're reminding you of. They also may tell you about professional development opportunities that are coming up. They could tell you about schedule changes due to things like inclement weather. So the emails that you get from these HR personnel are going to be very important, okay? So
read them.
Read them very carefully. They don't always require a response, but when they do, make sure that you provide that response quickly, because they deal with staffing issues. They may need specific paperwork from you at a certain time. Another personnel that you deal with would be the principal. This is another big person that you need to be sure to respond to any communication from. You may know them as the headmaster. They could be called the dean in your country. But it's an important person that manages the school, that makes sure that education is happening, that makes sure that the school is running smoothly and the school is safe. You can come to them with any major concern, such as like a major behavioral concern. They may already know the student if they've been a problem in another class before. But you also maybe want to communicate things with them, such as absences. And we have an example email of what you may send a principal in the case that you need to miss a school day for whatever reason. You need to be sure to use their title when you're speaking with them. If you don't know if it's Mrs. or Doctor, you can refer to them as principal. You need to make these emails concise, to the point, but they also need to include any important fact information that you need to give them. And then you need to give an appropriate sign-off, like a best or regards, and then your name. So what do you think?
Yeah, so with that, with the principal and the HR that you mentioned, these people are part of that school culture. So when you're thinking about school culture, you have to make sure to think about these people, including, the teachers. You are also part of that school culture. It is to involve everyone. You have to make sure that you are taking, what they say into account. You also have to think about different other people inside the school culture. That could be people, your assistants, that is your school improvement team. Your school improvement team is a team of teachers, staff, your principal, your curriculum coach that are getting together and trying to figure out where the school needs to grow and what areas the school needs to grow in, and making decisions for that school. So those areas are usually data driven. So these are, you can have a data team, or you can have a school improvement team and have that data within that team, but they make those choices, and it's very important that you listen to those people and what comes off of that team. The other people to think about is the support staff. So thinking about your assistants, and also thinking about people like office staff, your media specialists, even your custodians. You need to make connections with them very early. These relationships are important for you to establish. You know, if you see someone in the hall and you know that they work at your school and you don't know their name, stop and say hi. Tell them your name, tell them where you're from, you're excited to be here, and they'll, start establishing that relationship, especially with people in the same building as you. I was in school with multiple buildings, so they had different custodians per building, but I made sure to know the people that I would work with that worked in my room. If they worked in my classroom, I would make sure that I had that communication with them. So if I had a question, they would know who I am and be more, susceptible to figuring that out with me. So building those relationships are really important. It's also really important, and I know that Kyle mentioned HR and the principal, but the curriculum coach is also very important. Instructional coaches and curriculum coaches, they are not your boss, but they are your, expert in that instructional knowledge. So if you're having someone come into your room and they're sitting and they're watching as though they are a principal, and, introduce yourself to them, figure out who's in your room, and if they're an instructional coach, use them as an expert, use them as a resource, because they are a partner in the school with you and they want to see your students succeed.
Yeah, they've done it before.
Exactly.
They've been successful. They know what works. So this is a valuable person that you can listen to.
Yeah.
I like that you mentioned the custodians. Usually if you need something for your room,
Yeah.
like an extra desk or something, these are going to be your go-to people.
Exactly.
They're the ones that keep your room clean as well. So
Yeah, appreciate them.
the front desk personnel, a lot of times the principal will say, this is the real person that runs the school.
Yes.
Will be your school secretary and your front desk.
Yeah.
They'll know things like bus schedules, and generally just any question. If anything happens in that school, the school secretary.
They usually know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you guys very much for tuning in today. We see a few questions coming in that we really want to get to and answer. So we're going to do that next. So thank you.
Thank you. Hello again, everyone. Thanks for watching and for these great questions. We will answer as many as we can today, and any questions that we don't have time for, we will have an EPI support team member contact you directly for an answer. All right, let's take a look at our first question. Consuelo asks, how much should I contact parents? Is it possible to contact parents too much?
Thank you for your question, Consuelo. I would say that as a rule of thumb, you should contact parents approximately twice a month. Now, when we're talking about contact, this can be a telephone call, it can be an email, whatever you're comfortable with, but try to make that effort at least twice a month for each parent. Keep yourself a contact log where you can note when you do call or email a parent. As far as the second part of your question, is it possible to contact parents too much? Parents are people just like us. Some of us like to talk more than others. So, as you start reaching out to parents to begin with, you should be able to kind of feel how much they like this contact and know how much you should contact each individual parent. So thank you for that, Consuelo. So our next question comes in from Maria. She says that the curriculum coach has asked me to change the way I teach math, and I'm confused by what she's asking. What should I do?
All right, Maria, thank you for your question. So when you are confused at school with a directive or what someone has given to you, it is completely appropriate to ask that person to clarify. So make sure to ask that curriculum coach for strategies or suggestions on how to implement that teaching the way that they're teaching math now. And you can also make sure to reach out to your grade level or colleagues that you work with, as well as any other resources that you have available, and always, always your support specialist. All right, next question. Manny asks, we started a few weeks ago and I still don't know the names of my school improvement team. I'm scared to insult them by asking them now. What should I do?
Thank you, Manny. That's a great question. This is a completely understandable problem to have because you're coming into this school, a new individual, having to learn a lot of people's names, including your students' names, whereas, those other teachers are just having one or two new people come in. It's a situation that is completely understandable, and I think, for one, if you're brave enough to explain it to them like that, you won't be insulting them. They'll understand where you're coming from. But, if that makes you feel awkward or you're not comfortable with that, look for emails from the school improvement team. Look at who is on those emails so you can learn who their names are. If that doesn't help, I would check the employee roster on your school's webpage. Look for the faces that you recognize for that school improvement team, and then just match the names to them that way. But thank you so much for that question. All right, so next we have a question for Joshua, who says, I have a front desk person that doesn't like me much. What can I do to change this?
All right, Joshua, thank you for your question. So first, I encourage you to think about why you think anyone in the school, whether it be a front desk person or any other person that you're working with, why you might perceive or think that they don't like you. As cultures are different, and so please be open to that and always thinking about what you can do to think about how well you're getting along with other people and how they are perceiving you and how you're perceiving them, because likely it might not be that someone doesn't like you, but that they might be busy or have other things happening. And if you still do not think that the person, the front desk person, likes you, then I always encourage anyone who is trying to build a better relationship with someone that they work with to get to know them and build that rapport. So start by figuring out who they are, talk about them or talk to them with use their name, and make sure that they, see you as a friendly face and someone that is going to care about, how they're doing. And so start from there. You can always bring them, try not to be disingenuous by bringing them, things that all the time, but you can always have a nice cup of coffee or, some candy or something like that to bring them as well and help that relationship grow. All right, next question. Tajin asks, is it possible for me to get a sample for the parent letter? I love it.
Great, Tajin. I'm really happy that you liked the letter that we wrote, and absolutely you can get a sample. You can get that letter that we showed earlier in the video. What happens is on Monday we will post resources at the very bottom of the page that you're on now. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see a section that says previous episodes, and it'll have a green background. On Monday, we'll have a link to this video, a replay, and we'll also have any resources that we discussed in the video. So yes, you'll be able to download the episode and the sample letter directly from our page. Thank you so much for that question. All right, we have a question from an anonymous viewer. They said, can I write a letter to the parents of my students to introduce myself as their children's new teacher?
All right, so just as Kyle was mentioning before, we do have a parent letter. We do encourage parents to be reached out to with the teacher. So I do recommend that you go ahead and introduce yourself and make sure that you are, following all of those guidelines and have that resources area at the bottom of this on Monday help you out, okay? Because there will be a parent letter sample there for you to, obtain and edit. All right. Okay. Okay, next question we have, is it okay to ask parents for their email or cell phone number to send messages to them?
Absolutely. And in a letter home, you can ask for this information from the parents, to ask for that email, to ask for the cell phone number. Sometimes the school will have records already on file for the parents. You can ask your front desk person or another teacher if this is the case at your school, and that will allow you to access that information more freely. But when you do ask for the email, cell phone number, we highly encourage you to, if you're not using our letter, to at least specify why you want this information for them and the ways that you will be contacting them, and even how much you will be contacting them, just so they'll be aware that you're not going to abuse this cell phone number or abuse the email. But absolutely, it's appropriate to ask for these things to keep them updated about how their child is doing in your classroom. Thank you. So now we've got a question from Mark. He says, do the schools have deans of discipline to help with student behavioral issues?
All right, Mark, thank you for your question. So this depends on the school and the district. What you will want to do when you get into your school is to figure out what the steps are to handle discipline in your classroom. Of course, we will be conducting some series of these to talk about some discipline and classroom management. But for now, sometimes schools do have deans of discipline, and sometimes it's the assistant principal or the principal that will handle discipline issues in your school. All right. That is all the questions that we have time for today. If we didn't get to your question live on the air, we will have an EPI support team member reach out to you as soon as possible. Please join us back here next week on Friday, August the 17th for the next episode of Launch Your Classroom. We will be discussing how to turn your classroom into a safe and productive learning environment. To get the most out of next week's episode, EPI program members should read Chapter 2 in their Launch Your Classroom handbook. Remember, to stay up to date on all professional development opportunities that EPI offers, please enter your email address in the fields below. And we'll see you next time.